Yeah, definitely Ray Stokes. So I met him. I would have been 16 when I met him. So he was doing clinics up in Canada. He'd be there for 6 to 8 weeks every summer, and I started skiing with him when I was 16. And I started skiing with him when I was 16, and for some reason, he had said to me right from the start, he's like, you're going to be one of the best in the world one day.
What's happening, WaterSki world? Welcome back to the WaterSki podcast, episode 38. Crazy to think we're already at episode 38, but here we are with the first part of my ongoing interview with Trent Finlayson. Trent is a dear friend, a super committed water skier, a fellow UL Lafayette alumni, and I did say ongoing because we started this interview whilst I was in the United States, and then for several reasons, different commitments, we hadn't managed to continue our interview for a while. But stick around because you'll hear from Trent after this episode some more. First of all, I just want to say thank you to everyone for listening. This podcast has been a source of profound happiness for me. And I think by judging from the feedback I've been receiving, it's been somewhat of a source of, happiness, knowledge, entertainment, if anything, for a lot of people in the sport. So super grateful that I get to do this as part of my weekly activities, I guess. I keep getting questions about how to help the podcast, how to, support this effort to promote the sport. So I'll give you 3 options today. The first one is subscribe to the podcast. I know some of you just get the links through other means and get the episodes that way. If you listen on Spotify, if you listen on Apple, Google, wherever you listen, click on that subscribe button because that helps create and promote the podcast. Share on social media, share with friends. I can't stress enough how those things those things really truly help the podcast to be more exposed and hopefully to continue getting people close to the sport, get back into the sport like it's been happening already. So if you can help that way, that would be much appreciated. The second way is to get on the Flowpoint Method program. Yeah, this is one of the sponsors, actually the first sponsor of the podcast. And the Flowpoint Method, brand new online water ski training program developed by Jenny Labaugh and the Rastafari buoy shredding, ski designing man that is Marcus Brown. And really, performance in any sport depends on a lot of factors. And the holistic approach that Jenny and Marcus adopted in creating the Flowpoint Method is for people who are truly committed to take their skiing to the next level. They cover technique, fitness, nutrition, mindset. And as you might have heard before, I will be collaborating for the mindset section of the Flowpoint Method. Also, the Flowpoint Method has a 3 days of trial. So you can get online, get your membership, get these 3 free days, get a feel for what it is. Now it's probably the perfect time because starting yesterday, they rolled out the in-season training program. So you can take a look at that as well and see if this program fits for your needs. But my sense is that if you care about getting a few extra buoys and becoming a better skier, which, doesn't just involve where your hips are, I think the Flowpoint Method is the program for you. So why did I say this in terms of supporting the podcast? Well, if you become a member of the Flowpoint Method through the podcast, that helps me and the podcast. So if you want to try this out, you can go on the waterskipodcast.com/flowpointmethod, one word. Again, the waterskipodcast.com/flowpointmethod, or you can click in the link in the show notes. And finally, the third way in which you can help the podcast is to decide to sponsor it. I am now somewhat set up to accept advertisement. So if you are interested, you can go on waterskipodcast.com/support, and you'll find a form there to inquire about advertisement opportunities. So if you're interested, you want to shoot me an email and see what advertisement can do for you on the podcast, just go on the waterskipodcast.com/support, and you'll find a way to write me an email there. Okay, enough with the announcements and intro. Here's my the beginning of my interview with Trent. Trent is a complete, full-on, die-hard water ski ambassador and coach and skier, and he also is a fellow podcaster. I guess that's the word. He has a great podcast with Chris Rossi called The Spray Makers. They really go deep into technique and like the nitty-gritty of slalom skiing. So if you haven't checked it out, you can find Spray Makers on Apple, Spotify, all the good stuff. So let's just jump right into the first part of my interview with Trent. Enjoy. We want to jump in?
Yep, I'm good.
Trent, my man, welcome to the WaterSki Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me.
Absolutely, Matt. Honored that you asked me to stop in, Matt. I've been listening, and I love what you're doing. It's a crazy time. Available content was limited to the magazine for so many years, and having been a big part of the magazine, the magazine having been a big part of my life, when it went away, it was crickets for a moment, and now there's just so many options. There's so much available content right now. Even before the world closed its doors for a moment, there was just so much stuff out there.
Yeah, no, it's a cool time, and I think the more content is out, the better it is for everyone. Oh, nice mug, by the way. Mm-hmm. Raging Cages.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we've already thrown two big parts of your journey, but as you know, at the WaterSki Podcast, I like to start from the beginning. So
yes.
How'd you get into the sport?
Simple. I grew up on a public lake, so it was it was at my front door. My parents recreationally skied. I can vaguely remember seeing my mom ski once. I remember my dad. All I remember about him is that he could do a beach start on a slalom ski.
Oh, there you go.
5 coils of slack and an outboard, and I remember thinking at that moment he was probably the best skier in the world.
Yep. Yeah. And so, when did you do your first set? How old were you?
I don't really know. I remember the rule was you had to know how to swim or be brave enough to swim in the middle of the lake. And I can remember my dad throwing me over the edge of the boat, terrified. And then from that moment on, I was allowed to ski. So I don't really know how old I was. I was young though, probably 4 or 5.
So do you remember your first set?
No.
When is the first set you remember? Like a clear picture of a set when you were really young?
Yeah, so my older brother was already tournament skiing. I was still just skiing on 2 skis. And I remember pretending to run the slalom course, just going. And in my mind, I knew there were 6 buoys, but I thought the process was after you ran a pass, then there was 8 buoys, and then there was 10 buoys, and then there was 12 buoys. So I remember playing this game, pretending to run the course, and then every time I would do it, then I'd start over and add another 2 buoys.
There you go.
That's probably the first set I remember.
That's cool. Yeah, that's a cool one. Yeah, obviously it would make sense that after 6 there would be more. Right? The game is a bit different.
Logistical nightmare.
Yeah, logistical nightmare for sure. And so obviously you grew up with a very short season, right? You're from Canada. Like it gets cold pretty early and it gets warm very late in the year. When did you start sort of wanting for more in terms of seeking water, seeking nice weather?
Yeah. I remember we were probably 10 years old, and we were presented at that point with the option, either you guys can play hockey or you can water ski. We can't afford to do both.
Yeah.
I'm sure the thought process was I didn't want to, shovel the rink in Paddockwood, Saskatchewan when it's
Right.
minus 30. And I knew that Florida meant Disneyland. So we just, we said, okay, we'll quit playing hockey if we can go to Florida for, it was probably a week, that winter. And my parents, probably my dad and Jim Clooney, he was a Canadian jumper. He won everything, won a whole bunch of, team world titles and pro event. Anyway, it would have been probably my dad and his dad drove us down there together. And we went to Jack Travers for a week.
Oh, there you
10
go.
years old.
Classic.
Yeah.
Classic
And that was
place.
that was the start, At that point, hockey was just pick up rec hockey only, and we water skied. This is kind of what we did, But it was strictly hobby, though. It was, the ice goes off, mid-May. First snowfall is in September, so it was just something we did in the summer.
Yeah. Yeah. And when did that change? Because first of all, you're saying you and your brother, so that means that you guys were through this journey together, skiing together.
Yeah, my older, I have a twin brother who he did ski for a moment. Not really long. He didn't want to waste his summers at the lake. He wanted to make money.
Yeah.
So he was an entrepreneur from the time he was 13 years old. He started his first business, and so he went that way. I followed my older brother through this deal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And when did it go for you from recreational, a few months in the summer, maybe with that Florida trip, here and there, to then, no, this is something I want to pursue and do tournaments and...
Yeah, definitely Ray Stokes. So I met him. I would have been 16 when I met him. So he was doing clinics up in Canada. He'd be there for 6 to 8 weeks every summer, and I started skiing with him when I was 16. Sorry.
It's all right.
Ugh, that was out of left field. Anyway, I started skiing with him when I was 16, and for some reason, he had said to me right from the start, he's like, you're going to be one of the best in the world one day. Wow. Sorry.
Yeah,
I'm going to compose myself here.
No problem.
But yeah. So anyway, when he said it, I wasn't even remarkable. You know what I mean? I was good for Saskatchewan, but I was just starting to run 35 off, but it had like a profound effect. So from there, the next summer he came back, and I was in 10th grade that year, and then he just had said, like, you're really good. There's no limit to how good you're going to be. So he said, my advice is, I know school is important to you and it's important to your family. So let's wrap this schooling up as quickly as you can. And I want you to move to Australia with me and, move in with my family. His wife was Geraldine, at the time, Geraldine, was his wife. And anyway, so I moved in with, that was the plan. Anyway, he set this plan in motion for me. So, with my mom's help, I graduated early and I kind of got this thing set in motion there. There's a, podcast. So the reason why all those unnatural pauses is Ray died, probably going on 7 years ago now. And he was just a really important, he facilitated this whole thing for me. Along with other people. So I hadn't talked about him in a while.
Yeah. That would leave a mark to anyone if someone tells you, you're going to be one of the best in the world. Again, running 35 off is not that it's nothing, like, it's something remarkable, let's face it. But it's not indicative of that
no,
yet. Yeah.
Absolutely not. I wasn't even good on a national level. I was one of the guys that, maybe was going to do okay, but I wasn't, I wasn't that good, and I didn't have any aspirations of thus, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
I was just going to do this until university and kind of ski in the summer. I didn't really put any thought into it, you know. And,
Yeah.
And then it's my, you know, I look back now, and I mean, Ray would like this too, but I think like, man, I wonder if he even knew what he was saying, and I wonder if he knew the effect it was having on me, or, you know, did he just want someone to come drive the boat at his ski school? You know what I mean? You know, he liked me, he liked hanging out with me. You know, he thought I'd be, you know, he knew I was a hard worker. I was like, this guy might have played me right from the start, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, that thought crossed my mind for half a second, but it went away very quickly. That's
No, but I mean, but Ray would appreciate that. I mean, I mean, whatever his intent was, you know, whether he really thought I was good or whether he just wanted to hang out with me and more, because we were pretty good buddies. And like, you know, just a quick aside, you know, as a coach, like a full-time coach now, that taught me to be careful with your words, you know, because in the same way, I mean, you can alter people's life paths. You know, it's a coach-athlete is a strange relationship, and in the same way that he perhaps off the cuff, you know, built me up and changed my life. You can have the exact opposite effect with very little intent. You know,
absolutely.
Say the wrong thing at the wrong time, and that, you know, you can like tear someone down as quickly as you build them up. And you know, even if it's inadvertently, like I think you have to be respectful of the power of that relationship.
Oh yeah, no, it's an extremely powerful relationship, like on both sides, right? Like on both parties, and it could go in either direction. Yeah. So was that your first experience with coaching? So like, give me an idea. Up until that level, were you just like sort of figuring out with your brother, trying to run more buoys?
Yeah, for sure. So, you know, like probably the first person that helped facilitate would have been Jim Clooney and his family. So they were, you know, obviously Jim was from Saskatchewan also, and you know, when I was a kid, he was the guy going to Worlds and going to Moomba and winning events and skiing the Masters, and he absolutely revolutionized the sport. You know, it was himself and Jeff Carrington, you know, were the first guys to start inching their skis a little bit longer, but they were the first guys that you know weren't completely upright in the air like a Sammy Duvall. They were the first guys that were starting to, you know, understand the effect of, or the continued lift effect that you can get, you know, just through the right type of airform. And so he and his family, you know, his dad Gord, his mom Eileen, you know, they would host the entire province. So, you know, maybe there'd be 8, 10, 12 kids, and we'd all go live at their house, ski at their public lake for 2 weeks. And then that whole crew, all these kids would come live at my parents' house and ski on our public lake for 2 weeks. So it was you know, there was like this sort of team training aspect back then when it wasn't even really a team, but just, you know, our two families together really helped drive the sport in the province. So it was the first people, you know, it would have been, I mean, I can remember, like, okay, sorry, back to your question. The first coaching, I can remember skiing on, it's called Kippabiska, and it's just a huge public lake. And I remember Gord Clooney, Jim Clooney's father, driving, my dad watching, and he's got Joel McClintock's A to Z of water skiing, I think is what the book was called.
Right.
And it was all three events, and I'm tricking, and he's like reading out of the book, trying to teach me how to do a Waco, you know. So that was my first, and I can remember that, dude. It's crazy, but that would have been my first coaching, and you know, until I met Ray.
Yeah. So did you end up doing the move? Did you go to Australia?
Yeah, I did 4 of our winters, their summers over there, and back to back. I was there until I guess I did 96, 97, 98, 99.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was after high school, winters, like Northern Hemisphere winters in Australia. Summer?
Yeah.
Were you in the U.S.? Were you still back home?
I go to U.S. a little bit because my older brother was down there, and then, but no, the summers were still at home. Yeah. You know, because actually Ray was still coming over in the summer.
Oh, okay. So yeah, you had that as well. Yeah.
I'd ski with him in the winter. Then we, you know, we'd run our own. Me and the Highs family was the other family that really helped drive the sport. So, you know, it was actually Art and Highs, at another lake in northern Saskatchewan, Loon Lake, big public lake. They would host more high performance camps all summer, where they would bring race stokes in, and they would run like kind of a de facto ski school.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've asked this guest, other guests, this question, and I'm going to ask this to you too. When was it that you had a moment where you said, damn, I'm good at this. I'm a good water skier,
Huh. I don't know. That one I don't know.
And again,
you know what? Maybe really the first time when I was like, holy, this might be a thing. It might have been my last year, my last collegiate nationals.
Okay.
2003. Like I was running mid 39 and I was I'd run 39 practice, but I never really thought I was that good until that tournament. So I was like, wow, because I ended up second, but it was like Will Asher and Thomas DeGasperi, and I mean the best skiers. They're still the best skiers on the planet, and that weekend when it mattered, I was leading until the last rotation. Mm-hmm. Cale Burdick beat me, and it's a name everyone knows now. But at that time, after I knew I'd beat Will. Will was on my team. We both skied for UL, the Raging Cajuns, had a Lafayette. So so it wasn't like I was parading around, wow, I beat Will. But in hindsight, I was like, holy crap, I beat Will, I beat DeGasperi, and then it was like this kid. I had no idea who he was, and he went to Purdue, and I had no idea where that was.
Right.
And and he just, he took that title. But that aside, that was the first day that was probably the first time I thought, that I was maybe Ray was right,
Yeah. And it's funny how this moment comes to people in different ways. Like, at different ages, because like Wade told me, I think it was like when he won his first nationals at age 13 or whatever he was, like that's when he went like, wow, I'm struggling to play basketball in my high school. I'm not even nowhere near the best, but I'm national champion, so it's funny how that moment comes differently for anyone. Let's step back a little bit. So obviously you went to UL Lafayette. What'd you do, 99 to 03?
No, I started in I started in 2001, actually, in September of 2001.
Okay, but you said your last nationals was 03.
I did 01, 02, 03, 04, I guess. Huh. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So 2000. Yeah. 2000. It was definitely 2001 because I know my first semester was September 11th. Which was 2001. So I did 01, 02, 03, 04. So we won in 03. That's where I get confused. Yeah, we Lafayette won the title in 03. We lost by 5 points in 04. So it would have been the 04 Nationals was the first time that, back to that question a little more accurately, when I kind of had that realization.
Oh, okay. Yes. So you got second in slalom in 04.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which even more loaded, consider that, Will had already got a silver at the Worlds and Tigas was already kind of becoming Tigas. So I can see how that was like, okay, well, there's something to this. I can perform. Yeah. Yeah. Give me, okay, so before we go into your collegiate days, which I know you have dear fond memories of.
For sure.
Did you represent Canada at any of like the junior tournaments?
Nothing.
Nothing.
So no, and I'm old enough though. I kind of predate Junior Worlds, so I don't believe there was Junior Worlds back then.
Right.
But no, absolutely not. No Pan Ams, nothing. I had never made and back to that original point. Like, I liked it. I can't even say I liked it. I just wasn't that good though. The first time I represented Canada would have been the 2005 Worlds in China.
Oh, okay.
On the elite team. Yeah.
Oh, so your first time representing Canada was like at the top.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yep. Yeah, no juniors, no Pan Ams, nothing. Straight to the Worlds.
So the question comes, how did you make it into UL Lafayette? And the reason why I say that is, it was already a highly competitive team. They had, plans of winning the nationals. You had never represented the Canadian team, so like you also have to put yourself on the spot, like try to make sure that they accept you. How did that come about?
You know what it was? I think, and I've told them, I can't tell them enough. It was Scott Jones. So Scott and Linda Jones, who are alum themselves, they were managing the team at that point, and I had come into town to visit a friend who was going to school there, and I coached Scott over the weekend, and we just we clicked as ski partners, and he appreciated the way I coached, and so it was probably would have been more my in. I was. I had scores and stuff, and I was skiing relatively well. I had mid 39 scores, which was okay, which was decent for back then in 2000.
That's
and it was but it would have been my coaching really that probably secured me a spot on that team.
That's a very interesting thing.
Yeah, in hindsight, it really is.
So your coaching, like, were you already passionate about coaching then?
Yeah, for sure.
How do you think that came about? Because I mean, don't get me wrong, but like you were what, 19, probably 20, something like that.
So when I met him, I started school at 22, so I would have met him at 20 when I was 21. Yeah.
Okay, so you're 21. You're clearly on a path to become among the best in the world, and as that can be a little lonely, a little self-absorbed. But you're already like passionate about coaching. How did were you like eager to help your friends already at an early age? What was it?
I had the opportunity to do it, because like I said, I'd return to Saskatchewan every summer.
Yeah.
And then so I would, coach the Saskatchewan junior team, if you will. I'm not really sure if that's exactly what it was, but I'd coach all the junior skiers in the province. And I was definitely passionate about it from the start. It was definitely, I liked the psychology aspect of it, and I liked honing communication, and I always separated it from my skiing. Like I always viewed it as two completely different endeavors, and with very little crossover between the two. You know what I mean? Like I tried not to. I knew that to be effective, I wasn't going to be able to push, my approach to, or what's going on in my brain. I couldn't just, push that or try and carbon copy somebody else on that. So I kept it separate from the start, and I worked hard at it from right from the start. It's just something I enjoy doing.
Yeah. Because I think that can come out from different, different ways that might bring you to be passionate about coaching. Sometimes it's just it's out of need and you're continuing to do it, and then you realize, I enjoy this. Some people have it from the start, that's what they want to do. Some through ski partners, and then they see results in their ski partner, they go, that's something I enjoy. So here you are some good scores. Through your coaching, you made your way in. You are at UL Lafayette in Lafayette, Louisiana. Slightly different than Saskatchewan. Tell me about the first week, the first few days. Like, how was the beginning of your collegiate career?
The beginning was probably was a little bit rocky, because I was older, and I just kind of rolled in, and it was pretty tight knit from the start. So the start was a little bit rocky. I had a couple good friends on the team immediately, like Tom Asher, came. He was there. That he and I started the same year. The first until Christmas, it was a little bit rocky. Yeah. I was glad I had Scott Jones. And we went straight into it. I was there as a slalomer with the understanding I was only going to be slaloming. Someone, and I can't remember, it might have been one of the one of the Colombian skiers. Someone on our team got hurt. And I was a jumper, like 145 foot kind of jumper, but I hadn't jumped in years. I hadn't jumped since I was 17. So anyway, it was like, hey, will you just pick up this fifth round score for us? And, initial answer, no. And then Scott Jones he knew he just had to ask one question. What are you afraid you're going to get hurt? I'm like, no, okay, I'll do it. Don't worry about it then. And I got hurt. I got really hurt. Yeah. At Nationals. Yeah. At Nationals in Tempe, Arizona. ACL, MCL, PCL.
What?
Done. Yeah, dude. Yeah. Like 120 foot jump. It was in downtown Tempe on this river. It was an amazing site, but crazy rolly, and I just landed like a stand-up landing.
Yep.
But it must have been on a roller or something, because I just heard, whether you hear it or it's probably more of that internal vibration, which it's the same as hearing it, I guess. But I thought I broke my femur. I just heard the loudest crack, and there was so much pain. And that was it. ACL, MCL, PCL.
Recovery time?
Huh?
What was your
recovery time? I didn't miss a national, so I guess 10 months.
Oh wow, that's pretty fast recovery for all of that.
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough. I mean, I was skiing at the nationals 1 year later. It was tough though. Yeah. So I probably fast tracked it a little bit, but I worked my butt off. So I and that's another. Every time I see Scott, I remind him too. Remind him, you facilitated an education, but it did cost me my knee. But you know what? I love this too. Like, I remind people that I'm coaching when they're like faced with an injury like that. Like, I just share like that. That was the moment that turned my career around. And if I hadn't blown my knee, I probably would have skied through college, and that would have been it, I think, because I don't think I would have gotten as good as I did had that not happened. And and my rationale, it's not just this kind of reflective pipe dream thing, but my rationale is I learned how to work. Like, I decided from that moment on, that I was going to work what an Olympic, the level that an Olympic athlete, and that's just how I framed it. I'm like, I'm going to work and work and work, and then for the next 10, maybe 15 years. I mean, I never took a day off, Yeah. I'm not saying I never took a rest day, but if it was a rest day, it was a prescribed rest day.
Yeah, purposeful day. Yeah.
I learned how to work, man. The last 5 years, I haven't been able to work like that hard anymore, but I did. It taught me everything. I took that rehab really seriously, and then I just took that into just the overall picture. Where there was 10 years where like there was, I mean, I obviously still drank and had fun, but every single thing was a decision. Everything I ate, everything I did,
Yeah.
I was clinical for a while. So I absolutely gained through it. I still, my knee is constantly swollen. I have a lot of atrophy in that leg, and I'm in pain almost every day. But I absolutely learned from it. It provided me with something for sure.
Yeah, no, I can see that. I mean, obviously not an injury as important as that, but like, as you know, I broke my Achilles a few years ago, and the legend that is Glenn Campbell called me. Well, actually, I called him because I knew he broke it, and I was just asking for advice, and he said, Matteo, I learned more about water skiing in those 6 months than I ever did in my career. Like, kind of making the point that those injuries can have a huge effect for the positive on your skiing if you know how to frame them properly. And clearly, it sounded that for you it was like maybe like not being able to do it. Maybe the jump was a distraction towards what you're already doing. Something happened to you to where you said, okay, when I'll be back, I'm gonna be working hard and strong. Yeah, for sure. And it just happened at the right time. I was there. I was by myself. I was like
disconnected from everything that had ever made me comfortable in terms of people and stuff like that. And did that the second half of that first year ended up being just absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Well, I had a chat with Will a few days ago, and I heard something I wasn't aware of, which is you were a 4.0 student. So clearly you took your academics very seriously. Talk about that. What were you studying?
So I was studying speech language pathology, and the campus had its own, speech language pathology clinic. So I mean, when Scott gave me this opportunity, I decided that I was going to make really good use of it because there I knew I liked to coach. I kind of liked water skiing, but I didn't know that. I didn't know if there was going to be something there, so I wanted to study something where I was highly and readily employable. Mm-hmm. Immediately. Yeah. I didn't want to graduate and then try and figure out what I was going to do if I had something or not. So, I decided to go into that field, and Will was close. I did end up with 1B, my second last semester. It was like an upper level French class, but yeah, I graduated with honors. I took it as a challenge because it's kind of funny. Like I was like a terrible student in school. Yeah, yes, I graduated early, but only because I decided, or Ray decided I should. I literally wouldn't. I never did a moment of homework ever. All the way through, even through the board exams. I just didn't study. It just wasn't something I did, and it would. My mom is an academic, and it would drive her nuts, and I just remember telling her it's not going to matter. It's not going to matter what I do, and then fast forward. After I took those 3 or 4 years off, originally I was going to go to Monroe. Mm-hmm. That was kind of the first. So I got an offer from them first. So I did. I flew there first. And I couldn't get in, man. My grades were too bad. It's funny. Especially if you understand the rivalry, because we're like, yeah, they've got more titles. We get it, but we were a better school. Like, right. We're academics first, and I mean I couldn't get into Monroe. So then the plan was I was going to visit both schools in the same trip. So I traveled down south, and I was able to meet with the president of the school, and he just had me, he gave me special exceptions. He said, okay, with your permission, we're gonna destroy your transcripts, and we're gonna give you, kind of a probationary shot at this. And
wow.
So yeah. So and I guess where I was going with that is it wasn't that I just never applied myself because I didn't want to. And when this opportunity came up, I took it as a challenge. And I was just gonna get after it. So yeah, I lived at the library.
Yeah. So
not begrudgingly. So I mean, I loved it. I loved every minute. I loved studying, and I loved learning. I didn't enjoy the clinic as much because kids are generally afraid of you when you're tall and you have dark hair and tattoos. It's so plopping me in there as without much experience. I wasn't that good in the clinic. But I enjoyed learning.
Yeah. So basically, now you're in Lafayette. You have you're given the opportunity to study, and you made the decision. I'm being given the opportunity. I'm going to do this. Skiing wise, you clearly have a great opportunity. From Canada, the view is summer long all year. Lake to ski 10 minutes away from campus. The injury, but. Tell me a little bit, and I know I'll ask this to a lot of guests, but obviously 2003, I don't know how you did individually, but you won the national championship.
Yeah. You know what? In hindsight, I know I tied De Gasperi. So he and I tied for third or fifth, and I didn't put myself on the level with those guys because I remember he and I being on the podium. So this is 2003, and I set up. I said, I want the medal. And he's like, oh, hey, why do you get the medal? You know,
Right.
and I don't remember exactly what he said, but it was along the lines of like, Thomas, you're going to win everything anyway. Like this is a big deal for me. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because I just had this, you know, I just wasn't, you know, I didn't view myself on their level even when I was. So I remember, I mean, and he was gracious. He gave me the medal. Because he probably agreed he was going to win everything at one point.
Right.
So yeah, we tied for third or fifth of that year that Lafayette won the title, and I just can't remember where we tied on the podium.
Yeah, but tell me in terms of team, because by then it's your junior year. You've been there. You've had a couple of not wins, probably losses against the big rival.
Yep. So 2001. Sorry, we lost in Arizona. It's actually Arizona State won, led by Jimmy Seamers. Yeah.
Wow.
And we had a real shot, but I mean, we had that injury, and then it just the way it unfolded. You know, Dane Puxty was probably leading our team. You know, he was kind of our backbone. And then next year, 2002, we lost to Monroe in Austin, Texas. And that would have been I don't know where I placed that year. I was kind of skiing on a hobbly knee, and I skied fine for what it was. And then the following year, 2003, that's when I would have tied with DeGaspery, and that's the year that we won. And it was again in Austin. It was a different host school, but it was in Austin, Texas. And that was, you know, we were Will Asher and myself and Tom Asher and Mandy Nightingale, who's going into the Hall of Fame this year.
Yeah.
Brad Perculis, you know, I mean, there was just a ton of really good skiers. Mandy Williams and probably Kyle Nightingale was already there. We had an impressive, we had a stacked team. Val Gilliland and then, you know, and on Monroe's end, I mean, that was when Regina was, you know, skiing. That might have been her second nationals, and so I mean, like the level now too. But I mean, it was just like the how deep both of those teams were for those 4 years was crazy.
Yeah, but you're not answering my question. How was it for you to win as a team?
Oh, unbelievable, man. I mean, it was unreal. It was such a, we just had worked really well, like this, like everyone, but worked really hard. But there was just, and we had it the following year too in 04 when we lost in Zachary. We were probably a closer team that year even, but yeah, there was just a level of trust, and everyone was helping each other, and it's just incomparable. It's, you know, everyone I coach, I'm trying to funnel them into this, you know, especially in this day and age, funnel them into this scenario, into this program, into collegiate skiing, because there's nothing like it, you know, and it was just interesting. Like Will and Tom and I, you know, we trained together daily. We studied together. We lived together. And it was the whole package, you know. We were, well, maybe not Tom, but Will and I were training on with the same vigor off the water.
Yeah.
And everything fed itself, you know, like, you know, the academics fed the skiing, and the skiing fed the off water, and it just was this perfect package, you know, and we had a hell of a lot of fun in there also, but yeah, I mean, that team win was, you know what though, that team win was amazing, but for me, the loss the following year was probably more amazing. Like that loss that loss hurt a hell of a lot more than the win felt good, you know?
Yeah. No, and I know the history, and we've said it several times, like one placement in collegiate nationals is 10 points, like one placement of one skier in one event. So the fact that you guys lost by 5 points, that means that someone tied somewhere in there. So
yes.
the way I have explained it before is you win generally Lafayette and Monroe because of the levels of their skiers. We're talking about points in the 9,000s, 10,000s, and to lose by 5 makes almost no sense.
And it's never been done. And even even more profound. I mean, it literally was the last skier, the last jump. I mean, it was Ryan Dodd,
Yeah.
you know, and his last jump put him over Tom Asher, you know, who got second. And if it had been flipped, we would have won by 5 points,
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
So it's crazy. So, and we were like that. I'd never been closer to that large of a group of people before. So, then they, you know, that one stung, I was done. And then they went on with almost that same team intact. They went on and won the next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did that experience leave with you? The collegiate skiing, you know, like maybe, I mean, clearly to me, it seems like if that hurt more than the win the year before, that even shows how close of a group, you know, a lot of people call it family. I mean, you live with them, ski with them, possibly have classes with them, train with them, party, you know.
Yeah.
What did that teach you?
Well, I mean, the whole 4 years, I mean, if you look at like, so okay, well, back to why that first semester was so rocky. Like I was only there because I had I had a long time girlfriend and it was kind of a, you know, she had already been there for a year and I had been away. So it was like, you know what, like, I'm just going to go to school. This is, you know, this opportunity's arise. I'm going to take it. And anyway, within the first like week, we had broken up and, you know, and we'd been dating for like, since we were children, dude, like
right.
15-year-olds. Right. So, I guess why I bothered bringing that up now, it was because, so in that span of 4 years, you know, my life completely changed. You know, where I'd always assumed I was going to marry this one person. All of a sudden I didn't have this person. And then all of a sudden I break every ligament in my knee. And then, you know, so there was just so much like everyone could have this same story, but I mean, I just had so much growth. And then I went there and, you know, proved to myself that, with, you know, the right work ethic, you know, I graduated with honors and my skiing really took off and, you know, so, I mean, what didn't I learn? I mean, the whole thing, you know, like just, I learned, you know, who I was as an individual. I learned what I was capable of, when I truly wanted something. And, so, I mean, the whole thing, you know, the whole thing. And I've got some lifelong friends from it, through it.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
this is not light stuff, man. I mean, people might say it in different words, but this is like insane amount of growth, you know?
It was something, dude. It was something.
And that,
well, and then, you know, and then back to that for the first couple of weeks, dude. I mean, the world was ending. I mean,
on top of this,
I mean, this country that has been my second home is all of a sudden under attack, you know, and so in the span of 12 hours, I you know, I had lost this longtime best friend, you know, not lost as in died, but, you know, I broke up with someone that I assumed I was going to get married. And the next morning, New York's under attack. And it's just like, holy shit, you know, and then 2 weeks later, I blow out my knee and it's just like, this is so heavy, man. There's so much stuff going on. And it was, you know, and that's the power of, well, that's part of the power of sport too, right? Like it went, if you, you know, it just teaches you how to, it can hone your work ethic. It can keep you focused, and, you know, the skiing lent to the athletics, the athletics lent to the academics, and vice versa. And just I just learned everything there. You know, I went there, I showed up there as a dependent, you know, and I left like just absolutely with, you know, in hindsight, I'm like, yeah, I left like there's nothing I couldn't do, you know.